So what do we have here? Heavy cream and eggs, sliced banana, soaked and roasted pumpkin seeds, homemade sauerkraut, and fake watermelon with no seeds from Costco. Who do you think will be the star of our show today?
Hey friends, it's Sierra from Sisterfrennn.com. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about sauerkraut. Now, when I was a little girl, I had an obsession with pickles. Like, I love that pickled flavor of things. And I don't even remember my first recollection of sauerkraut, but I remember around the time I was like 29 or so, and me and my mom were at a diner, and I was just like, yeah, I'm going to try some sauerkraut. And I was just eating it, and I loved it because it had that pickle, salty flavor to it. But I never knew that sauerkraut was actually a fermented food. I didn't even know what fermented foods were until a couple of years ago. And so I did not realize that when I was eating sauerkraut, I was eating a probiotic, because what happens when you ferment foods is that it produces microbes, and in some fermented foods, lactic acid. Sauerkraut was the first thing that I ever learned how to ferment as a homemaker. I remembered watching videos on homemaking, and I was like, I'm gonna be the best homemaker and I'm gonna can things. And sauerkraut was the first thing that I ever made, but I did not know that it was just this amazing food full of all of these health benefits. So today I'm gonna show you how to ferment some sauerkraut. I have other videos here on the channel showing you how, and just know you can have so much fun when you ferment your sauerkraut. Like today I'm just gonna show you a super basic recipe, but you can have fun with it. You can add carrots to it, you can add onions, you can add jalapeno. I used to add, I saw somebody on the internet once, and they were saying in their country that they always add horseradish, and they were saying that the horseradish helps to keep it crunchy, but I always feel like my sauerkraut is crunchy anyway. But I have added horseradish to it, and it does give it a really yummy flavor. But before I show you how to make homemade sauerkraut, which is so easy, you gotta get this in your garden. If you don't know what sauerkraut is, it is fermented cabbage. But before I show you how to do it, I just want to tell you a few of the health benefits. I have still had no success growing cabbage in my garden. It is something that I am about to seed start. Maybe let me know if you guys would want me to. I've been trying to decide if I should do gardening here on the channel too, because I do feel like it goes hand in hand with gut health, what you feed your gut. And so I'm like, oh, we can pull something from the garden and I can show you how to make it healthy for your gut. I am gonna give cabbage another try this year in my garden, and I want to just harvest a whole bunch, because sauerkraut can live in your fridge for months and months and months and months and months. That's what our ancestors used to do. They used to harvest, and then they would ferment it so that they could have it for the off seasons. So before I show you this really easy sauerkraut recipe, let me just tell you a few of the health benefits. Also, if you're new here, I have a new guide called Rebirth the Ancestral Way, and I am giving this guide to my first 100 people who head over to Sisterfrennn.com. I have many videos here on the channel talking about my healing journey, being born with sickle cell disease type SS, then getting a bone marrow transplant. I was on antibiotics, which wrecked my health. Then I was on chemotherapy, which further wrecked my health. And probiotics have microbes. All these little microbes have saved my life. This is the calmest, the best I've ever felt. Like I said, you can go here on the channel and hear me go on my diatribes all about it. But if you are on your health journey and you're trying to get better, go to Sisterfrennn.com and download my Rebirth Ancestral Guide. I spent years running here, there, and everywhere trying to figure out what was wrong with me mentally, because my mind was messed up, because all of the bacteria in my gut had been eradicated by the years of chemotherapy and all of the narcotics that I took when I had sickle cell and all of the antibiotics that were prescribed to me through the years. So it can be very overwhelming with all the information out there, but I believe that healing is very simple for everybody. And so you can go on over to Sisterfrennn.com and download my Rebirth Ancestral Guide. All right, so to get into it, let's talk a little bit about a sauerkraut. Okay, So first and foremost, it's gonna help repopulate your gut microbiome. If you've been on antibiotics, if you have leaky gut, Dr. Berg actually says that if you have SIBO, I think he was saying he would not recommend sauerkraut, but I know for a fact when I've talked to doctors and I've gone through all the things, I know for a fact that I have had SIBO and leaky gut, and personally I have never had a problem with sauerkraut. It has been very gentle on me. You have to just try it and see if it works for you. I always suggest with fermented foods, when they're new, go low and slow, because you could have something called histamine intolerance, but I never experienced that with sauerkraut. Start off with 1 to 2 teaspoons a day, just a little bit, and it's going to start putting in that good bacteria into your gut and crowding out the bad bacteria. Number 2 is it's gonna help with the leaky gut, which is what I was just talking about. You wanna start repairing that leaky gut, and what happens when you have a leaky gut is that toxins start to go out into your bloodstream, and this is how disease happens. All disease starts in the gut. So you wanna seal that leaky gut, but as I always say, soup is also really huge in healing your gut lining. Chicken feet soup, oxtail soup, bone marrow broth, like chicken broth. I have some really great soup recipes here on the channel, but when I was healing my husband's gut and even healing my own, I mean, we're about to have soup for dinner tonight. Soup is such an integral part of healing that gut lining. So sauerkraut's gonna also help with healing it, but I would also combine that with soup. Next up is it's going to help calm inflammation. Something that Dr. Berg talks about all the time, which I do not miss a day of my vitamin D and my K2. So vitamin D and vitamin K2 work synergistically. If you're taking vitamin D or vitamin D3, you 100% want to take K2 with it. I just buy one now that is already combined, and I take it every single day. So there's a lot of research that sauerkraut has a lot of vitamin K2 in it, and that's going to really help support your bones and your heart. So next up is it's going to help detoxify your body. I don't know if you guys have heard of the word sulforaphane, but you can find sulforaphane in things like radish and then also sauerkraut. And the reason sulforaphane is so important is because cancer hates sulforaphane. But there is something called bioavailability. Editing Sierra here. So what I was trying to explain is that there is something called bioavailability, and oftentimes when people have gone through antibiotics or chemotherapy, or maybe like some people do not have a colon and they have a hard time absorbing food because of a gut dysbiosis, a gut dysfunction. And so oftentimes people might think that they're eating all the right things, and maybe they are eating the right things, but they're not absorbing the nutrients. So that's where fermentation comes in, right? Like we're breaking down the food and we're able to extract that nutrient, that sulforaphane, or even when we soak our nuts, right? We're getting that bioavailability of the minerals and the enzymes. And even there's so many conversations surrounding bread, okay? People say, oh, bread is not healthy for you. Well, I would beg to differ, because obviously we all know people go to Italy and Europe and they eat bread and pasta and all these things, and they're totally healthy because they're not spraying the crops and the wheat berries and things like that. But if you were to order whole wheat berries here in America, organic whole wheat berries like einkorn berries or soft red wheat or turkey red wheat and different, or rye berries or spelt berries. Dr. Barbara O'Neill, you guys might know her. She's that Australian lady who gives all the amazing lectures about health and wellness and telling you about home remedies. She makes spelt sourdough bread, which is an ancient grain. So if you wanted to eat bread, you could start buying your own wheat berries, milling them, buying a mill, milling your grains, and then turning those grains into sourdough. So then you would soak the grains. I have some sourdough videos here on the channel. And then guess what? When people are constantly telling you that there's iron and manganese and folate and all these great minerals in the wheat berries, you're actually accessing them because you've milled them yourself, and then you've soaked them, getting rid of the phytic acid, and you turn them into sourdough. And then as they're soaked, they're releasing those minerals and enzymes that your body can actually take in. You can eat the whole grain. So bioavailability is so important, and that is where soaking comes in. You guys will often see me in my videos. I don't mess around. Like, soaking is so important. If you think about what you're going to do with your future foods, if you're going to have lentils or nuts or something, soak them the night before. Try to start thinking ahead of time of what you're going to eat so that you can have things soaked and ready so that they can be bioavailable. So anyway, I say that to say, when we're fermenting the cabbage from cabbage to sauerkraut, we've broken the cabbage down, and now we can access that amazing sulforaphane that is anti-cancerous. And not only that, we are kind of avoiding the oxalates. I mean, I know when I started eating sauerkraut, I don't get joint pain. And when I eat plain chopped up kale or plain chopped up spinach, I get joint pain. So fermentation is so important for bioavailability, for actually accessing those amazing nutrients that the plants have to offer us. So there's that. And the last thing I'll say right now, even, I am drinking this kale juice. I'm gonna have another what I eat in a day video. I'm forever discovering things with my diet and changing things. My husband's like, Sierra, I cannot keep up. I mean, I'm always learning so much, but you know, yesterday I juiced kale for the first time in so long. I hadn't had kale juice with all the things in so long, and oh man, my joint, my arm and my hand was hurting so much, which I don't know if that means that I still got a leaky gut or if that just means that I'm very sensitive to oxalates. But you know, now I've been sipping on this kale juice. I basically has low simmered the kale all day for several hours, and the kale is releasing all of those minerals and things that I need. So this way is definitely more gentle on digestion for you. So you want to make sure that you're doing things that are gentle for digestion and nutrient, you're getting the most of the nutrient absorption. The next thing is it's going to help with hormonal support. It's going to help metabolize estrogen, and we all want that healthy metabolized estrogen, right? Like nobody wants to be estrogen dominant, and you guys can go read up on that. Sauerkraut has loads of vitamin C in it. When you go from cabbage to sauerkraut, it triples or quadruples in its vitamin C content. So during that fermentation, you're gonna get so much more vitamin C in the kraut than you would in the cabbage by itself. Oh, and let me also tell you, I know a lot of people, and I know this used to be my story, when I used to eat cabbage by itself, for one, I bloated like crazy, which we talked about before. It's going to help reduce bloat when you're fixing that microbiome, and when it's fermented, it already breaks down. But this also goes with gas. Like whenever I make my tortilla soup, which that is also here on the channel, I blend up the cabbage in my Vitamix, and I'm always very gassy. So, and I notice my husband too. So anytime there's raw cabbage or even just cooked cabbage that has not been fermented, oh, there's a lot of gas around here. And I think that that's the case for a lot of people. So when you have kraut, you're not gonna have gas. So that's also a really great benefit. But anyway, without further ado, let me go ahead and show you how I make my sauerkraut. Let's get into it.
All right, friends, so like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, whenever I see farm fresh cabbage, I always pick it up, because when you shop local, most farmers care deeply about the health of their soil. They move their crops from season to season and allow the soil to heal. So sometimes you will see cabbage in the grocery stores that look very white, they have no color, and they don't produce brine. So like I said, since I have not grown cabbage in my garden because of the white cabbage butterfly, it's not that I haven't tried, it's that they always eat it and I have to come up with a way to get rid of those butterflies. I always buy farm fresh sauerkraut. So here I am just peeling the leaves. I am now washing them off, and then I'm going to show you how to create the perfect salt ratio for your kraut. So now I'm going to tell you how to get the perfect ratio of salt in your sauerkraut. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put each cabbage on the food scale, and I'm going to set the food scale to grams. The next thing I do is that I add up all of the grams of each cabbage. Once we have that total, which is 4,291, we're going to multiply it by 0.02. So this is the measurement of salt that we will put in our sauerkraut, 85 to 86 grams of salt. So through the years, I have heard that putting the cabbage in the food processor can destroy the nutrients. So I opt to chop it up myself. I like to chop it into these long sort of stringy bits so it's nice and stringy. The next thing I do is I add it to the crock. So once the cabbage is all chopped up, we're going to add it to the crock. And now I'm going to put in some of the salt to create the brine. You zero out your scale. I am using Celtic salt. Do not use table salt. I repeat, do not use table salt. You can use Himalayan, you can use sea salt, you can use Celtic salt, but do not use iodized salt or table salt. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm adding in the salt to what I've already chopped up. I just put in half of the salt and I'm just trying to massage it in so that the cabbage can go down because it takes up so much space. So you just start twisting and churning with your hands, and as you massage the cabbage, it is going to start to produce a liquid. That is your brine. You can see there is the liquid. There it is. So you just keep massaging, and then I am continuing to chop up the rest of the cabbage and add it to my stock pot. Now I am adding in the rest of the salt, and I am continuing to massage it so that we produce a nice brine. Now, as we mix it, I also want to tell you, you want your cabbage to have nutrients. So that is why I said it is so important to get it from a good farmer or to grow it yourself, because so many of the cabbages in the grocery stores do not have the nutrients. Your produce is as good as your soil. You hear me? Your produce is as good as your soil and as good as your farmer. And these farmers do not spray their crops with glyphosate. These are really good, clean cabbages. And you should do that. You should start to get to know your farmers, or get to know yourself if you're going to garden yourself. So once I was done massaging the cabbage, I put on a cloth over the bucket and I just let it rest for an hour. And then when I'm done, I just put the cabbage into clean, sterilized mason jars. And now I am taking the leaves that I washed off from earlier. These are the outer leaves that I got off the cabbage. And I'm just gently folding up the leaves and I am setting them on top of the cabbage. This is going to protect it while it is doing the fermentation. You do not want there to be any space in the mason jar. Then I am putting these fermenting weights on top. And then lastly, I am putting the lids on. I don't screw them. I just gently put them on there so that it can breathe. And now we just let our cabbage ferment on the counter.
Today is day 2 since I made the sauerkraut. I did put it underneath a plate, and you can see that the brine is coming out.
You can see we have some bubbles, and this is a great sign that fermentation is happening.
Day 4.
On day 4, you can see that it's starting to foam. This is also a great sign the fermentation is doing very well. It's totally fine to take the lid off, and then I'm just pressing down and showing you, look at how it creates those bubbles. This is exactly what is supposed to be happening.
Today is day 10.
I'm also fermenting some beans here, so I'll have to put that recipe here on the channel. I usually go about 10 days with my kraut. I feel like that is good enough for me. And then I just take out the weights. I take out the protective covering. You could leave the protective covering on the kraut. When I say protective covering, I mean the folded leaves. You could leave them on if you want, but I take out my fermenting weights because I'm always fermenting something, so I'd like to put those back to good use. And then I'm taking off those leaves. And so in this video, what I did was, since I had another little mason jar here that had such little kraut and the cabbage had shrunken up, so I just combined this little one with the big ones. You don't have to do that, but I just wanted to save space in my refrigerator. And then you put the lid on tight this time, wipe off the mason jars, and then store them in your fridge. So here you have homemade sauerkraut that will be phenomenal in your fridge for months and months and months. It's going to help feed your gut microbiome. And finally, friends, head over to Sisterfrennn.com to download my new guide, Rebirth the Ancestral Way. It is a really great guide, just giving you some starting points as you heal your gut.